Which wizard is the best wizard, and which is the worst? This week, I decide which wizard archetype will have you riding eagles, and which will have you feeling a bit more like Smeagol. Hello players and GMs, I'm Reese and welcome to another video by Jetpack7. Before we get started, I just want to thank everyone who participated in our Kickstarter for Blackstorm Realms. We managed to raise over $111,000 for this book, which surpasses our most recent book, Legendary Dragons, and we couldn't be happier about that. 2020 has been a tumultuous year, to say the least, so getting this amount of support from you all despite the insanity is truly awesome and humbling. So thank you again to every single person who participated. We are going to do our absolute best to make sure this is the best book we've made so far. And as always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Your support on this channel has surely contributed to our growth as a company, so help us spread the word even further by speaking to the anomalous YouTube algorithm with button clicks. For the Wizard Archetype rankings, I've decided to spread it out into two different videos. I didn't do this with the Cleric one, and I really wish I had, because there are just so dang many, and I wasn't able to go as in-depth as I would have liked. So for this one, I'm going to start with the bottom 6 Wizard Archetypes, and then in part 2, I'll finish the whole series with the top 6 Wizard Archetypes. There really isn't much to say other than that, so let's just go ahead and jump right into it. At the very bottom of the Wizard Archetype rankings, in 12th, I have placed a subclass that I always wanted to like, but just could never find a very positive application for: the Illusion Wizard. I love illusion magic because I love trickery and chaos, but the illusion school for wizards just feels like it does none of that. To start off, you gain Illusion Savant, which I think is a feature in every wizard school that the PHB has, but obviously for their school of magic, so I'll describe it here so I don't have to describe it again later. This essentially just halves the amount of gold and time you need to copy a particular school's spell into your spellbook, and in this case, obviously, it's illusion. This is better than a lot of people give it credit for, I think, because copying spells quickly gets very expensive. For each level of spell, it requires 2 hours and 50 gold pieces, so by the time you're adding 3rd level spells into your book, it will take 6 hours and 150 gold per spell. That's quite a bit, so this feature is pretty cool because it actually encourages you to learn spells that aren't in your school when you level up, so that you can save time and money by copying spells from whatever school you have chosen to be a savant at. After Illusion Savant, you gain Improved Minor Illusion, which is just about as strong as it sounds. You gain the Minor Illusion cantrip, and it doesn't count towards the number of cantrips you know, and then when you cast Minor Illusion, you can create an image and a sound with a single casting. Normally, you can only do one or the other, but this allows you to do both at the same time. So now, your illusion that is up to a 5-foot cube visually can make a sound, but it still can't move. Super helpful. And then at 6th level, you gain Malleable Illusions. When you cast an illusion that lasts a minute or longer, you can use your action to change the nature of that illusion while still maintaining that spell's parameters. So it's not that you can move illusions that you couldn't previously, you can just change the way they look using an action. Again, not looking too hot here. At 10th level, you get an actually good ability called Illusory Self, which allows you to use a reaction when a creature attacks you to interpose an illusion between yourself and your attacker, and then that attack just automatically misses. You can only use this once between short or long rests, but being able to guarantee you avoid an attack can be a lifesaver in a dire situation. That said, I don't think this feature is enough to push this archetype any further up the list, as it ends with another one that is cool but relatively niche. At 14th level, you gain Illusory Reality, which allows you to kind of turn objects within your illusions real for 1 minute. When you cast an illusion spell of 1st level or higher, you can use a bonus action to choose one inanimate, non-magical object that is a part of that illusion and make it real for 1 minute. The example given in the PHB is creating an illusion of a bridge and making it real to allow your allies to cross it. While this is admittedly a cool piece of imagery, by 14th level, the wizard has creative solutions to just about every single problem you can imagine, and crossing a small chasm is pretty low on the list of things they should be worried about. Hell, they can solve this issue with a rope and the fly spell by the time they're 5th level, so this just feels pretty underwhelming to be able to create inanimate objects as the capstone feature of your archetype. So yeah, I enjoy this archetype because I love illusion magic, but I just don't think the features are applied in particularly potent ways when compared to the rest of the wizard schools. At 11th place, I have the War Magic Wizard. I almost placed this wizard all the way at the bottom simply because of how underwhelming its features are to me, honestly, but they lend themselves to an ever so slightly more pleasant experience than Illusion, so I placed it in 11th instead. To start off, you gain Arcane Deflection, which allows you to use your reaction when you fail a saving throw or get hit by an attack to gain +4 bonus to the saving throw or +2 to your AC against just that attack. Sounds pretty cool, but unfortunately after using this feature, you can't cast spells other than cantrips until the end of your next turn. So right away, this archetype establishes this idea that war magic is kind of pushing a wizard's magical abilities over the limit and creating a sort of short burst of energy. And I don't mind that theme at all. In fact, I really like it. My only problem is that this is a feature that you actively want to avoid using because of how it limits your spellcasting for an entire turn. I want features that I want to use, not features that actively punish me for using them. I think in this case, I'd prefer a limit to how many times I can use it, or maybe I start taking damage if I use it more than once. I don't know. Spellcasting is all you have as a wizard, truly, and a feature that takes that away feels pretty rough to me. Also, at 2nd level, you gain Tactical Wit, which allows you to add your intelligence modifier to your initiative rolls. Nothing complicated there, just a nice little boon to initiative. At 6th level, you get the bread and butter of this archetype called Power Surge, which is, unfortunately, pretty weak in my opinion. Whenever you successfully end a spell with Dispel Magic or Counterspell, you gain 1 Power Surge. Once per turn, when you deal damage to a creature or object with a wizard spell, you can spend 1 Power Surge to add extra force damage equal to half your wizard level to that spell, which, when you get this feature, is 3. 3 force damage. Huge. And it gets better. You can store a number of power surges equal to your intelligence modifier, but whenever you finish a long rest, your power surges reset to 1. So I don't think it takes too much explaining to see why I think this is bad. I have played in a lot of campaigns and I've gotten a lot of value out of Counterspell, slightly less from Dispel Magic, but I definitely don't find myself using them super often, much less in a single day. And with this feature, even if you have 20 intelligence, Dispel or Counterspell 5 spells in a single day and are a 10th level wizard, you can add 5 force damage to 5 spells. That is 25 total bonus damage in an ideal situation. The argument you can make is that you're not losing anything from this, so it is kind of free damage, since using Dispel Magic and Counterspell is already beneficial, but it does still feel extremely underwhelming to even bother using, honestly. At 10th level, you gain Durable Magic, which gives you a +2 bonus to AC and all saving throws while maintaining concentration on a spell. Honestly, this might be my favorite feature of the War Magic Wizard. This is the kind of stuff I imagine with a wizard who is intended to be efficient in combat. Make it harder to break concentration, harder to get hit when casting spells, easier to hit people with spells, that kind of stuff. And finally, at 14th level, you get Deflecting Shroud, another feature that uses half your wizard level to deal barely any damage. When you use your Arcane Deflection feature, you can choose up to 3 creatures within 60 feet of you to take force damage equal to half your wizard level. And then, lest we forget, you can't cast spells until the end of your next turn. But hey, at least you dealt up to 21 force damage spread between 3 creatures. So at 14th level, you basically sneezed on them, which, you know, in 2020 might actually be deadlier than this. I don't mean to give the impression that I hate the War Wizard. In fact, I have played one and I enjoyed it because it's still a wizard. I just think the features missed the mark a little bit. It doesn't capture a very warlike aspect to me, and the overload features of Power Surge and Arcane Deflection are just plain weak when you look at them. In 10th place, I have the most charming wizard of the crew, the Enchantment Wizard. This is a wizard that I wanted to rank much higher because the features have a lot of potential to be powerful, but then there are little bits written into them that massively limit how useful they end up actually being. To start off, at 2nd level, you gain Enchantment Savant and then also Hypnotic Gaze, which allows you to magically enthrall a creature. As an action, you can choose a creature within 5 feet of you that can see or hear you and force it to succeed on a Wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC or be charmed until the end of your next turn. While charmed, its speed is 0 and it is incapacitated. On subsequent turns, you can use your action to maintain this effect, but the effect ends if you move more than 5 feet away, the creature can no longer see or hear you, or if they take damage. Once this effect ends, you can't use the feature on the creature again until you finish a long rest. Like I said, a lot of potential, but just a couple little pieces that make it really hard to be useful. The whole having to stay within 5 feet bit makes this a feature you won't use very often. I said the same thing for sorcery, but wizards want to stay away. Far away. A d6 hit die doesn't give you the luxury of getting in melee range of a hostile creature. The only time I see myself using this is if they approach me first, and it would be super helpful right there, except for the fact that I have to use my action to maintain this effect. So again, I don't even really want to use it at all. So to use this feature, you are basically also incapacitating yourself because you can't move except for running in a 5-foot circle around the creature, and then you have to use your action every turn to maintain it. Not very helpful at all. At 6th level, you gain Instinctive Charm. Whenever a creature you can see within 30 feet makes an attack roll against you, you can use your reaction to divert the attack, provided that another creature is within the attack's range. The attacker must make a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC, and on a failure, they must target the nearest creature other than you and itself. If there are multiple creatures, it chooses the target. If they succeed on the save, you can't target that creature again until you finish a long rest, and you must choose this feature before you know if the attack hits or misses. Pretty straightforward. I like this feature well enough. This is the kind of combat feature I would imagine for a wizard specializing in enchantment. At 10th level, you get an actually super powerful feature called Split Enchantment, which allows you to target 2 creatures instead of just 1 with enchantment spells that usually only target 1 creature. That could be really handy with spells like Hold Person or Crown of Madness. At 14th level, you gain Alter Memories, which is a pretty niche feature in my opinion. When you cast an enchantment spell to charm 1 or more creatures, you can alter 1 creature's understanding so that it remains unaware of being charmed. Additionally, once before the spell expires, you can use your action to make the chosen creature forget some of the time it spent charmed. That creature must succeed on an intelligence saving throw against your spell save DC, or lose a number of hours of its memories equal to 1 plus your charisma modifier. You can choose to make it forget less than that, but not more. So yeah, this one is interesting. Honestly, just kind of feels like something I wouldn't really find myself finding a time to use very often. Not to mention, a lot of the stuff you're fighting by 14th level is immune to the charmed condition. If you're running a more social campaign, then this might be cool, but in a standard game of D&D, I'm not sure when this would come in handy too much. So yeah, this archetype is kind of 2 good features sandwiched in between 2 weaker ones, which I think places it pretty solidly near the bottom. In 9th place, I've placed the Conjuration Wizard. I was going back and forth about the Conjuration and Enchantment wizards being 9th and 10th. It was honestly a bit of a coin flip to me, but I feel that the Conjuration school's features just have more regular applications and nothing that feels particularly limiting about it. It's honestly a pretty simple archetype, probably the simplest of all of them, which tends to lend itself to consistent use without being too strong or too weak. To start off, you gain Conjuration Savant and then Minor Conjuration, which allows you to use an action to conjure an inanimate object in your hand or on the ground in an unoccupied space you can see within 10 feet. The object can be no larger than 3 feet on a side and weigh no more than 10 pounds, and the form must be a non-magical object that you have seen. The object is visibly magical, radiating dim light out to 5 feet, and the object disappears after 1 hour if you use this feature again or it takes any damage. Nothing super powerful here by any means, but it also doesn't use any resources, so I guess there isn't really a downside to this one, but either way, it obviously isn't particularly potent. I could see some situations where it comes in handy, but it's definitely pretty niche. At 6th level, you get a pretty nice little feature called Benign Transportation. You can use your action to teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space that you can see. Alternatively, you can choose a space that is occupied by a small or medium creature. If that creature is willing, you both teleport, swapping places. You can only use this feature once between long rests, but if you cast a conjuration spell of 1st level or higher, you regain the use of it. So honestly, you can use this feature relatively regularly if you really build into conjuration magic, which isn't hard to do with spells like Find Familiar, Grease, and Misty Step. At 10th level, you gain Focused Conjuration, which makes it impossible for your concentration to be broken by taking damage while concentrating on a conjuration spell. This is a big one, specifically for spells like Conjure Elemental, because when you lose concentration on Conjure Elemental, that creature turns hostile to you and your companions. Now, you can guarantee that that doesn't happen, and you just have control over this elemental for up to an hour. That is very powerful, honestly. And to top things off, at 14th level, you gain Durable Summons, which gives any creature you summon an additional 30 temporary hit points. Nothing complicated here, but 30 temp HP is a pretty nice buff. For reference, a fire elemental has an average of 102 hit points, so you'd bring that up by nearly a third to 132. That's pretty nice. Overall, I think Conjuration definitely belongs above the Enchantment Wizard, but only by a small margin. It just feels as though all of its features, aside from maybe the very first one, would come in handy on a regular basis, whereas Enchantment feels a little more niche most of the time. In 8th place, I have put the Transmutation Wizard. Aside from Evocation with all its healing magic and stuff, I think Transmutation is the strongest school of magic. It has spells like Haste, Blink, Disintegrate, and one of my personal favorites, Rope Trick. So going into the school is super beneficial for a few different reasons, starting off obviously with gaining Transmutation Savant at 2nd level. You also gain Minor Alchemy, which allows you to temporarily alter the physical properties of a non-magical object. You can change an object made from wood, stone, iron, copper, or silver into one of those substances. You can change 1 cubic foot for every 10 minutes you spend on this, and it reverts after an hour or after you break concentration. This is another pretty niche little feature that could come in handy if you're trying to, I don't know, pay for something that costs several silver by turning copper pieces into silver. Not super useful by any means, but it could be funny in the right situation. You get the real bread and butter of this archetype at 6th level, however, with Transmuter Stone. You can spend 8 hours creating a Transmuter Stone that gives whoever is holding it a bit of a boon, choosing from one of the following: 60-foot dark vision, a 10-foot movement speed increase, proficiency in con saves, or resistance to acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder, your choice. Whatever benefit you choose is just set until you cast a transmutation spell of 1st level or higher, at which point you can change this effect to whatever you want as long as the stone is on your person. This is an awesome feature because it just gives you or one of your allies a permanent buff, which requires absolutely no resources from anyone. And these are no small buffs. Dark vision is vitally important in a lot of situations. Monks and barbarians know how good it feels to get an extra 10 feet of movement. Con saves translate to concentration checks, and resistance to damage, if you know what you're fighting, can be a lifesaver. And your stone gets even better later on. But before that, at 10th level you get Shape Changer, which allows you to add Polymorph to your spellbook if it isn't already there. You can cast Polymorph without expending a spell slot, but when done this way, you can target only yourself and transform into a beast of CR 1 or lower. Once you do it this way, you can't do it again until you finish a short or long rest, but this has no effect on casting Polymorph normally. So obviously this one isn't massively powerful in combat terms, but one of the most utilitarian uses of Polymorph is to transform yourself into a small beast so that you won't attract attention when you scout a place out or something. So this isn't bad at all, not to mention the fact that it doesn't use a spell slot, so you're not losing anything by doing this either. Need a quick getaway? Turn yourself into a bird and fly off. Need to open a door from the inside? Turn into a mouse and slip through the cracks. There are a lot of ways to use Polymorph outside of combat, and this just gives you the opportunity to do that without using a spell slot. And finally, at 14th level, you get Master Transmuter, which allows you to use your action to consume the Transmuter Stone in a single big burst of energy. This destroys your Transmuter Stone, which can't be recreated until you finish a long rest, but listen to these effects. First of all, Major Transformation. You can transmute an object no larger than a 5-foot cube into another non-magical object of similar size and mass and of equal or lesser value. Okay, cool, fun little transmutation magic stuff here. Restore Youth. The creature's apparent age is reduced by 3d 10 years to a minimum of 13 years, but it doesn't affect their lifespan. Okay, sure, flavor stuff, this is fine. Restore Life. You cast the Raise Dead spell on a creature without expending a spell slot or needing to have the spell in your spell book. Wow, quite a jump there, from anti-aging cream to anti-dying, whatever. A free resurrection spell, the 5th level one at that, is no joke. And then we have Panacea. You remove all curses, diseases, and poisons affecting a creature, and you also just straight up restore all of its hit points. Just humor me for a second. Imagine your barbarian is downed in a fight. 0 hit points. Scary, right? Things tend to look a lot more dire if monsters are able to cut through your tank like that. And at 14th level, the barbarian has a lot of hit points, so things are looking really rough. Maybe they got poisoned, maybe they got a disease or a curse from the boss you're fighting. But fortunately for everyone in the group, you have this little wizard with his little rock, and they're gonna walk up and tap this little rock on the barbarian's chest, and suddenly the rock explodes, and the barbarian is at full hit points with no harmful conditions on them. I feel like I don't need to point out how strong that is. So yeah, the Transmutation Wizard doesn't tout the most combat prowess of the wizards by any means, but their utility and support ability is damn near unrivaled. And finally, in 7th place, I have one of Matt Mercer's newest contributions to 5e, the Chronurgy Wizard. A time wizard, basically. This is one that honestly doesn't have ridiculously potent features, but they're all still plenty useful and can be used with great regularity. To start off, you gain Chronal Shift at 2nd level. As a reaction, after you or a creature you can see within 30 feet of you makes an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can force that creature to re-roll. You make this decision after you see whether the roll succeeds or fails. The target must use the second roll. You can use this ability twice and regain expended uses between rests. I like this feature because it's kind of a less potent version of Portent, which we'll get to later. It doesn't guarantee that you get the roll that you want, but it does allow you to twist fate a little bit. Also, at 2nd level, you gain Temporal Awareness, which allows you to add your Intelligence modifier to initiative rolls. At 6th level, you gain Momentary Stasis, which allows you to use an action to magically force a large or smaller creature you can see within 60 feet of you to make a con save against your spell save DC. If they fail, they are encased in a field of magical energy until the end of your next turn, or if they take damage. While encased, the creature is incapacitated and has a speed of 0. You can use this a number of times equal to your Intelligence modifier, regaining expended uses at a long rest. So this is basically just the better version of the Enchantment Wizard's 6th level feature. You can't make it last indefinitely, but you can use it repeatedly, and you can be 60 feet away instead of 5. It is a great way to take a creature out of a fight for a round, and doesn't require you to stand still 5 feet away from a creature to do it, which is great. At 10th level, you gain Arcane Abeyance. Abeyance? When you cast a spell of 4th level or lower, you can condense the spell magic into a mote for an hour. The mote is a tiny object with 15 AC and 1 HP. When the duration ends or the bead is destroyed, it vanishes. A creature holding the bead can use its action to release the spell within. The spell uses your spell attack bonus and spell save DC, and treats the creature who released it as the caster for all other purposes. You can only create 1 bead per short or long rest, but I still really enjoy this feature. It essentially allows you to put the casting time of a spell in the hands of one of your allies while still using all your stats to make the spell nice and powerful. And finally, at 14th level, you gain Convergent Future. When you or a creature you can see within 60 feet of you makes an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can use your reaction to ignore the die roll and decide whether the number rolled is the minimum needed to succeed or 1 less than that number. When you use it, you gain 1 level of exhaustion, which can only be removed by finishing a long rest. So basically, you can see if a creature passes or fails a roll, and then just be like, nope. No complaints there. Also, you can use it as many times as you want, theoretically. Well, up to 6, really. I love features that grant exhaustion because it isn't so punishing early on that it makes you not want to use it at all, but once you get to 2 or 3 uses, it can really start to put you in danger. I think this archetype is really cool and has some similarities to the Divination Wizard for sure, but its features don't carry quite the same raw game-changing power, so it certainly isn't as strong. You could make an argument for this to be higher, but comparing it to the top half of the archetypes, it just doesn't feel quite as potent to me. That said, it is definitely a powerful addition to Wizard Schools, and I would gladly play one of these in a campaign. Alright, that is the first half of my Wizard Archetype rankings. Let me know what you think in the comments, as well as what you think my ranking should look like next video. Again, part 2 of this video will be the final addition to this Archetype ranking series, so let me know in the comments if you have any requests or ideas for content you'd like to see. A great way to reach us is to join our Discord. I'll put the link in the description. I get tagged in stuff all the time there and have gotten some great ideas from the folks in our community. So I look forward to hearing from you all, but until then, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you around.